This is why I'm returning the circuit tracks. Freebie. Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome to Freebeat, where I post new music-related content every single day, so if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, let's get started. So I've known that I was going to make this video for a while now. Basically, a couple weeks after I got my circuit tracks, I started to realize that this was just not going to work out for me. It's just not really a device that I'm compatible with. Now, of course, I'm going to give you more of an explanation than that, but yes, I am returning my circuit tracks after about 4 or 5 weeks of using it. I was very lucky in that the store I purchased the tracks from has a very generous return policy of 45 days, so I am going to be able to return it, and I believe I just have to pay for shipping, so that's okay. But I want to talk about why I'm returning it today, because I finally was able to figure it out. If you've been following my journey with this device, there's been a lot of little complaints that I've had, but I've just been feeling this kind of nagging feeling this nagging feeling, nice. But just, there's just been something nagging at me that, trying to tell me that there's a bigger reason why I don't like this device, and I finally figured out why. So while you've seen me complain about things like not being able to arm it to record, so you always have to sequence your first note if you want to live record something in, or not being able to set a default scale right off the beginning, those are minor complaints, and honestly, those can probably be fixed via a software update. And given Novation's wonderful, fantastic update history with the previous circuit, and what they've already done with this, with the big sampling time update, I'm sure that if those complaints pop up from others, they will take care of them, because it seems that they listen to their audience, which is great. But anyway, those smaller complaints aren't too uncommon, and I have them with almost every piece of gear that I own. I think we almost always have, at least 1 or 2 little complaints about whatever we have. There's no perfect piece of gear. Even my beloved OPZ here, there's a couple things that I wish I could change on it. But I finally was able to pinpoint the big thing about the circuit tracks that I don't like. And quite simply, it's the workflow when it comes to programming drums. You see, I am a drummer, and that has really guided my approach to music and making music for the past 2 decades. So when I got my hands on the tracks, which forced me to completely change how I approach drum parts, it didn't really click with me, and even through repeated attempts to get it to click, it's still not there. So let me explain what I mean. So on the circuit tracks, you get 4 different drum tracks, right? You get drum 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, each of those share a pool of, I believe, 128 samples, maybe 64. Maybe 64, yeah. But all 4 of those drum tracks share those 64 samples, and that's just fine. There's, tons of samples to pick from. You can put your own on here. 64 samples is not the problem. Each of the tracks is monophonic. And while you can sample flip, so I could put like a kick on 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this on the offbeats, it's more, I think, intended for you to program in the nature of drum 1 is your kick drum track, drum 2 is your snare drum track, drum 3 is hi-hat, drum 4 is, tambourine or whatever, percussion, auxiliary stuff. Basically, each track has one major role that it plays in your song. Now, so far, that's pretty normal. That's basically how the OPZ handles things. We have a kick track, a snare track, hi-hat track, and auxiliary for drums. But it's how the patterns work on the circuit tracks that really gets me. So if we pop over to patterns, each individual track has its own set of 8 patterns. So drum 1 has these 4 patterns. If we page down, here's another 4. Same with drum 2, 4 patterns, another 4, same with 3, and drum 4. Now, to some that's going to seem like a feature, because you get 8 individual patterns for each individual part of your drum kit. However, like I said, I've been an actual drummer for over 20 years, so I have a very hard time allowing myself to look at the drum kit as not only 4 parts, 4 tracks, but each of those parts having their own individual pattern sets. You see, to me, the drum set is one cohesive instrument. So yes, I do want multiple tracks for, the different hands and feet, as it were, of the drum kit, but I'd like all of them to share a pattern. like they do on the OPZ or the Electron devices or the MPC. Giving each of them their own pattern to me just winds up wasting a lot of patterns because I program each drum part as a whole as one pattern. And that, I think, is exactly why my distaste for this style of sequencing came about so quickly once I started using the Circuit Tracks. Now, that being said, I do think the Circuit Tracks is a fabulous device. I mean, look at this. Right now, I've just got a line out, a stereo pair here to my audio interface, and nothing else. And it's powered on. It's portable. It's got USB Type-C. That's amazing. I love it. Full MIDI in and out right here and through, full 5-pin. I love that. 2 inputs for controlling external gear, headphone out, sync out to pocket operators, SD card slot so you can store things. When it comes to sequencing synths, I actually really quite enjoy it. The pads feel great, all the buttons are nice and clicky, the encoders are fun to use, and once you kind of get the hang of learning the packs you have loaded on here, then automation gets a lot easier. But for whatever reason, I still cannot come to terms with programming my drums like this. And that's on me. That's just how I am, and I don't really plan on changing that. Like I said, I have tried, but it's just not something that's going to come easily to me, and it would make the process of unlearning other things that I've learned that much more difficult as well. So it is with a bit of a heavy heart that I will be returning the Circuit Tracks. Now, again, I can't emphasize this enough. This is just my personal opinion and my, own quirky nature talking when I'm discussing the Circuit Tracks here. This is still a great device, and I totally get the appeal of it. I think Novation has done a wonderful job with this device and the overall workflow, especially if you're into kind of the more repetitive side of electronic music and getting your variation from little automation tweaks and things like that. It's a phenomenal device. You've got a probability setting, which is really, really cool, and I know that's a big step up from the previous circuit. The ability to sidechain incoming audio. You can use it as an external effects box with incoming audio, so that's really cool too. It has great playability with the pocket operators. There's a lot going on for this thing, but for me, it's just not the right device due to how it handles sequencing drums. And what's funny is I don't really mind the separate patterns when it comes to Synth 1, Synth 2, and MIDI 1, MIDI 2, Synth 3, Synth 4, basically. Because normally, those things don't always go together. But 4 pieces of a drum kit, to me, read as left hand, left foot, right foot. 4 pieces of a drum kit that all go together into one pattern. So, yeah, like I said, I wind up wasting a lot of patterns, and it's just not a way that I enjoy working, and it's not a way that, frankly, I want to learn how to sequence in. And that's okay. I still think this is a great device, and for $400, you could do a lot worse with music gear. So kudos to Novation. It is an excellent device. It's just not for me, but I highly suggest checking it out. Of course, check out the incredible Gabe Miller music if you would like to deep dive into the Circuit Tracks and the Circuit Rhythm. He's doing a bunch of comparison videos with other gear right now. Awesome stuff. He is the circuit guru, in my opinion. And check him out if you would like a more positive take on the circuit. So there you have it. That's why I'm returning my Circuit Tracks. Hopefully I don't ruffle any feathers with this video. No hard feelings against this device. I almost kept it just for the portability factor alone, but it was just a little too frustrating for me to try and work out drum parts on. So I will be returning it. If you did enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like on it. If not, you can always leave a dislike. That's okay too. Doesn't hurt my feelings, just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you so very much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.